This is an absolute disaster waiting to happen. And Ted Richardson has just ignited a powder keg that will blow his entire family to pieces. Listen to me, guys. I am absolutely shaking right now just thinking about the sheer level of delusion radiating from Ted Richardson. Has this man not had enough trouble after everything that just went down? Following the harrowing life or death liver transplant surgery that Catherine Cat Richardson so selflessly underwent to save Eva Thomas, Ted has somehow convinced himself that a happy family reunion is possible. He is organizing a massive celebration party to honor the successful surgery. Ted has noticed a profound shift in Kat's mindset, especially after her wild out-of-body experience, and he genuinely hopes that this party will bring all of his girls together under one roof in perfect harmony. He even invites his current girlfriend, Shanice Johnson, because she is an incredibly important woman in his life. But let me ask you this. What on earth is Ted thinking? This is not going to be a celebration of life. This is going to be a brutal, savage bloodbath. When you put Leslie Thomas, Nicole Dupree, and Shanice Johnson in the same room, you are not throwing a party, you are hosting a war. Everything just changed, and Ted is about to learn the hard way that you cannot force a fractured, toxic dynamic into a picture-perfect family portrait. Let us break down the first explosive conflict of the night. This is Nicole versus Leslie, the ultimate battle of the mothers. From the moment the first glass of champagne is poured, the tension in the room is thick enough to cut with a scalpel. Nicole, fiercely protective and still reeling from the guilt of pushing her daughter into this life-threatening situation, loudly and proudly declares that Kat is the sole, undisputed hero of this entire ordeal. She wants the entire room to bow down to Kat's ultimate sacrifice. But do you honestly think Leslie Thomas is going to sit there and let Nicole control the narrative? Absolutely not. Leslie, who just lost her house in the tornado and had her free clinic funding ripped away by the new chief of staff, is a wounded animal with nothing left to lose. She viciously fires back, publicly accusing Nicole of being the very person who tried to stop the surgery in the first place. Leslie throws Nicole's initial hesitations right in her face, painting Nicole as a selfish villain who almost let Eva die. The venom spewing between these two women is downright lethal. But who are the real casualties in this vicious crossfire? The very girls this party was supposed to celebrate, Kat and Eva, fresh out of the operating room, physically exhausted and emotionally drained, are forced to sit there as reluctant hostages to this toxic warfare. Can we just talk about the psychological trauma this is inflicting on them? Kat literally just had a spiritual breakthrough where she finally understood Eva's pain, and Eva just woke up overwhelmed with guilt for putting Kat's life in danger. Instead of healing, their post-surgery psychological wounds are being ripped wide open by their own mothers. They are the main characters of the celebration, yet they have been reduced to collateral damage in a petty, vicious ego trip. It is completely barbaric. And just when you think the drama has peaked, Leslie decides to drop a nuclear bomb. This is Leslie versus Shanice, but Leslie doesn't attack Shanice directly. Oh no. She is far too manipulative for that. Instead, Leslie intentionally brings up highly private, intimate memories of her past with Ted. She reminisces about their shared history, their passionate moments, and the deep connection that led to Eva's conception. She does this loudly, proudly, and deliberately to provoke Nicole, but the true target of this savage humiliation is Shanice. Leslie is marking her territory. She is looking Shanice dead in the eye and saying, I have a history with this man that you will never touch. It is a calculated, ruthless strike designed to make Shanice feel small, insignificant, and completely out of place in this family dynamic. Now, let us talk about the most heartbreaking conflict of all. This is Shanice versus Ted's cowardice. Shanice is a grieving woman. She just lost her dear friend Derek Baldwin in a horrific shooting. She has been trying so hard to be the bigger person, even extending an olive branch to Leslie at the hospital. She tries with every ounce of her being to stay calm, to keep her composure, and to not let Leslie see her sweat. But as Leslie flaunts her past intimacy with Ted, what does Ted do? Absolutely nothing. Ted stands there in deafening silence. He does not shut Leslie down. He does not defend his current girlfriend. He does not protect the peace. Ted's silence is a brutal, agonizing betrayal, and it cuts Shanice deeper than any of Leslie's words ever could. How can Shanice possibly build a future with a man who refuses to stand up for her in front of his toxic exes? But hold on, because my mind is racing with an alternative theory, and I know you guys are going to want this to happen just as much as I do. What if the tables completely turn? What if this night ends with Nicole and Shanice versus Leslie? Imagine the sheer, unadulterated power of the ex-wife and the current girlfriend forming an unholy alliance to absolutely obliterate the toxic baby mama. Nicole and Shanice are both strong, independent women who have had enough of Leslie's manipulative games. Instead of fighting each other for Ted's affection, what if they lock eyes, silently agree that enough is enough, and systematically tear Leslie's arguments to shreds? In my mind, I see Nicole and Shanice standing shoulder to shoulder, calling out Leslie's desperate need for attention and completely shutting down her attempts to weaponize the past. Leslie would be utterly humiliated. Her grand plan to assert dominance would crumble into dust, leaving her exposed as the bitter, lonely woman she has become. She would be forced to flee the party in absolute disgrace, her reputation in tatters. And where does that leave Ted? Ted would be left standing in the ruins of his disastrous party, profoundly sad and utterly defeated. His grand illusion of a blended, happy family would be shattered forever, leaving him to realize that his inability to manage the women in his life has cost him the peace he so desperately craves. In Ted's mind, he genuinely hopes that everyone will just swallow their pride, suppress their explosive emotions, and focus entirely on Eva and Kat. He's desperately trying to play the peacemaker, praying that his presence alone will be enough to keep the party from descending into absolute chaos. But Ted is living in a fantasy world. You cannot put decades of betrayal, jealousy, and resentment into a pressure cooker and expect it not to explode. This party is not a celebration. It is a reckoning. What does this mean for the future of Fairmont Crest? If Shanice walks away from this party feeling unprotected by Ted, this could be the final nail in the coffin for their relationship. And with Nicole recently harboring secret fantasies about Ted, could Shanice's exit pave the way for a shocking Ted and Nicole reunion? Meanwhile, the psychological damage inflicted on Kat and Eva could derail their physical recovery, pushing the two sisters back into a bitter rivalry just when they were starting to find common ground. Every single relationship in this room is hanging by a thread, and Ted is holding the scissors. Do not miss what happens next. Will Shanice finally snap and walk out on Ted forever? Will Nicole and Leslie physically tear each other apart? Or will Kat and Eva finally scream at all of them to get out? Hit that subscribe button, smash the like button, and sound off in the comments below. Whose side are you on in this brutal motherly war? Let me know, and I will see you in the next explosive update.